Welcome back to the Advanced Selling Podcast, the longest running sales training podcast. We've been at this for almost 17 years. It'll be 17 years in September. I'm Bill Caskey.
I am Bryan Neal.
And we welcome you. If this is a virgin voyage for you, first timers, go to advancedsellingpodcast.com, and somewhere on that page there is a link that has our top 10 episodes on it. That's a good place to begin. You do not need to start in 2006.
You can, though.
Thousands of hours.
Just had a client say he was not a listener and had to drive for about 6.5, 7 hours. He goes, I listened to you and Bill the whole way. I said, dude, you got to get a life, man. You got to get a life. But it's fun. Yeah. I like the fact that he's doing that. So that's great.
Yeah, that's funny. That's brutal. That's brutal listening to us.
I don't know. I think people like it. And we're still getting new listeners. It's great. We've never promoted the podcast ever. It's funny. So I went to VCon. I mentioned that last episode.
Yeah.
Gary Vaynerchuk's thing. It's in Indianapolis. It was easy to go to. I worked with the coach who was offering some spots. So I did a couple of podcast interviews. One for the Advanced Selling podcast that we will release. We'll talk about that in a different episode. Really great interview. But it's funny, VCon is about eyeballs and attention for everybody. And it's got gamers there and collectors, and it's got business people, speakers, coaches, everybody. Everyone's trying to get attention. How many followers everybody's got, whatever. And it's funny because a lot of podcasters there. And you don't like to lead with your numbers, but when I said to people, the question always comes up, how long you been podcasting? And I go, 17 years. They're like, huh? Was podcasting even a thing? 17? I'm like, it was. And I told them a story about the radio thing. Like, that's amazing. And we're in rare air, having done it that long. We are in rare air. You're not going to find too many shows that have been on the air as long as the Advanced Selling Podcast has. And we just love it. And that's the other good part, because now there are a bunch of new people there that have started, and, I was with a guy named Jim Quick. Jim Quick?
Yeah, I know Jim Quick.
Yeah, so I was with Jim most of the time. Unbelievable, great person. And his podcast, he just started 2 years ago, maybe, and he's got 50, 60 million downloads already, which is great. And I love the fact that we have just done this the way we've done it. Mm-hmm. Slow and steady, consistent, persistent. It's been really, really awesome. And the only thing getting in between you listeners and this is buying the equipment. And I actually made a guy who I interviewed, made him buy his equipment on Amazon right in front of me. So I don't know if he actually
he was thinking about
it. Yeah. And I'm like, got to do it. Well, step one, go to Amazon, dude. He's like, well, what should I get that? I'm like, dude, just buy a starter kit. It's $100.
Yeah.
$100. So good conference. I'll talk more about it later. Really, really interesting. Great speakers. Got my picture taken with Deepak Chopra. Isn't that fun?
Oh, did you really?
Just walking down the hallway, there's Deepak Chopra. Just fantastic. Got a selfie with him.
Oh, that's cool.
Really,
that's
really
cool.
neat. Such a neat man. Got to listen to him. Awesome.
Yeah, when I flew in last night, I saw the big, there was a big sign at the bottom of the escalator near baggage claim at Indy that had VCon on it. And it didn't have Gary Vaynerchuk's name anywhere.
No.
Which I thought was weird, but I know that he's trying to brand himself probably away from being the face of all that. But
really cool, neat event. We'll have a podcast episode that I did, Bill. Once I get a copy, you can listen to it and we'll comment on it.
Awesome.
Interviewed a very, very interesting person with a wonderful backstory that I think our listeners will love to hear.
Yeah, so. Good.
All right.
Topic today. You go ahead.
So this is I told Bill in the pre-show, I'm always nervous talking about this experience because this industry has a really bad reputation. And I think there's always something we can learn from every experience. So you know what's coming. Guess what I just bought? We bought a car. And a car. And everyone listening is like, well, I'm not a car salesman, man. I'm above. I'm like, okay, whatever. What can you learn from experience? We had a great car buying experience. It was wonderful. Very above board, very, very reasonable follow-up, no pressure whatsoever. Then we go to do the paperwork and the F&I person. Okay, now the F&I people, they actually sell and they get compensated on selling extended warranties. We bought a car, kind of an upmarket car for us. And, Steph, my wife, she's like, should we do that? I'm like, let's look into it for sure. And then we're like, and she would rather buy a warranty and just have it be covered. Yeah. I'm like, you know what? It's a lot of money, but go ahead. We can do it, whatever. Well, and then as we started to do the paperwork, the F&I guy had made a bunch of mistakes as she's going through the paperwork. She's like, this isn't right. My name's misspelled. Then he had the wrong address. He's like, well, isn't your address this? She goes, no. What does it say on your license? It's like our real address. He's like, oh, okay. Well, he like did it around that. And then he mistyped the interest rate and the payment for the loan because we decided to like finance it. And there was like 5. I'm like, time out here. I'm like, this is starting to make me uncomfortable.
You're intolerant, Bryan.
Well, it's just like, he's the F&I guy. I'm like,
of all people
to screw. I get a salesperson doing that, but and so then I'm like, hang on, let me look at these warranties again because now I'm not trusting anything. Long story short, we were going to spend a ton of money on these extended warranties. We canceled them all right there. This guy lost his crap. Yeah. He was so mad at us. And we felt like we did something wrong, He's like, what did I do? So we were all hot and heavy on it. What changed? I'm like, well, there were mistakes. Just because a few typos, you're going to cancel the whole warranty. And I'm like, it's done now. Now, had it not been kind of my wife's dream car, we would have done.
You would have canceled the whole thing. Yeah.
So here's the thing I want to talk about: customer experience in all touches, in all touch points. Those of you who sell anything that needs serviced or delivered, so if you sell IT stuff, or you've got your delivery team, or you sell something where you've got an account manager working on it, or even accounts payable, what are you doing to coach your team on customer experience? And how is it impacting you? And what can you do about it? I want to talk about that today.
That's a great topic.
Yeah.
It's a great topic because, we've talked on the show before about the buyer experience in the sales process, but not so much about the buyer experience after the sale is made, where the delivery or the onboarding or whatever else happens.
Yes.
But I think it's a great because, that's awesome.
Yes, such a thing. So let's talk about that. And so one of the things we recommend, or I think is important to do, is I think everyone who touches a client or a customer, and go back to last week's episode, has to operate from the same philosophical foundation. And so Bill and I gave you some things last week. We talked about curiosity. We talked about who's selling whom. There's balance in there. And I think it's interesting if the salesperson maintains one of those. So let's say like a healthy balance. Like in my case, there was no pressure through the car sales process whatsoever. It felt very balanced.
Yeah.
When we got to that point in the F&I office, it felt massive pressure. I felt massive pressure to the point where we canceled a bunch of warranties. Mm-hmm. So I think if you are a salesperson listening to this, you need to forward this to your whomever, your chief account manager or whoever does the onboarding, and say, hey, are we operating on the same philosophy here? Let's do onboarding. I'm always intrigued when you get onboarded and nobody asks you anything about why you bought, right? So I know I talked to Bryan about his experience, but I'd love to hear from you specifically, Bill, just to get us started here. So what brought us, to here? What about what you saw from Bryan and us and our software made you think, hey, let's do this? I'd just love to hear from you directly.
Never.
Like that.
Almost never.
Yeah. Okay, well, welcome. We're glad to have you on board. So here's what we do. Let's go ahead and get you logged in. I'm like, so. Yeah,
I would even say along with that is an appreciation for them, not just why did you decide to come with us or to do this, but look, I know a lot of the people around here are really excited about working with you, and we've heard a lot about you from Bryan, we appreciate the confidence, and we're going to do everything we can to make sure that we instill that confidence, and we're going to be fine. I'm really looking forward to something like that. I mean, because after a person signs or whatever the transaction is, that's their most vulnerable point. That's when they're asking themselves, "Did I make the right decision?"
Yes.
Well, I've kind of made it now. So, but man, if you come out of the chutes, as we used to say in Indy racing, if we come out of the chutes with, "Hey, I'm Bryan. Bill's my colleague. We are so appreciative. I'm interested to know why." Man, that just settles the nerves.
Yes. I feel cared for. I feel heard. I feel listened to, that sort of stuff. Versus, okay, we'll get you onboarded here real quick, get you on your way. And you're like, huh? It's very transactional.
Yeah.
It's true.
And I think that in a time, and this is going to sound like old man talk here, but at a time when customer service is not at an all-time high, we'll just put that out there. It's not at an all-time high. So when you can be high in customer service after the customer buys, onboarding, client service, whatever you want to call it, you'd stand heads and shoulders, and that's when the referrals start to happen. Oh 100%. Man, you're thinking about sales coaching. You got to go to these guys. You just have to. You should see their onboarding. That's how you get referrals. You get the customer excited. So I think that's a great topic. what I was thinking about, well, how does one determine or understand what their onboarding process is? And like we said on the episodes in the past, is if it's not documented, it's not a process.
Amen.
And I would go to whoever that person is in the company that takes the client from once they become a client to execution or delivery, and just have them produce the document. Let's talk about how does this all work? And is there any warm and fuzzy? Is there any cookies that get sent, or flowers, or onboarding documents, or a video welcome from the owner? Or is there any of that? And there's probably not. There's probably not.
That's a great test for those of you listening. Can you print out, or if you're on Zoom, share a screen without any prep, like right now, your onboarding process? And if you can't, there's a to-do from today's episode. You got to be able to do that. I know ours is documented. We have a document. I could show you. It's super, it's exactly what you said. It's never perfect, I'm not saying, but we have it for sure. Yeah. And we did not have it 2 years ago.
And then as you experience, and as you, meaning the listener, experience buying from somebody who really does it right, steal the ideas.
Exactly.
Oh man, they sent me this great they sent me this Zamboni model.
Zamboni. It's with Palmer's name on it.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a little, because it's Denver and all. Yeah. A little Zamboni with Palmer's name on the side. But why not? Right.
Just think about when you're the buyer, learn from that, because you'll get some great ideas. I mean, Apple is really good at that, and they don't even have personal contact. They're just the way the product shows up, and the way the box is all cool and hip. And I mean, just think about how we deliver not just the product itself and the service, but also all those things around it, which can make a huge difference. And I like you said, Bryan, if you can't document it, it probably doesn't exist, or it's not consistent.
Yes. This is it. So now you said that it works both ways. So when Bill says, pay attention and learn from it, it's good and bad. So I learned from this F&I experience, don't do that. And if I was the owner, Steph was even talking, if I was the owner of that dealership, if I heard that, man, that would have been really bad. I had an Amazon problem. Did you know you can talk to someone on Amazon?
Oh yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I had a thing coming and it was late. It was marked delivered, not delivered. My first thought is it got stolen. Then I call, and I go on the thing, you need help. There's this button that says talk to someone. I hit it. They called me. I was on the phone for 20 seconds. Wait, I mean, it was so fast. And she's like, let me look. She goes, hang on, let me put you on hold real quick. She was great. I found the problem. The delivery team mistakenly marked that. It will be expedited tomorrow. Then it wasn't there tomorrow. And I'm like, I need this thing. I really needed this thing for like the next morning. She's like, hang on, let me look. She goes, the driver's about just over a mile from you. He should be there within the next 10 to 12 minutes. And he was. Wow. I was like blown away. Blown away. I'm like, no wonder Bezos just bought a $400 million yacht. He deserves it because he solved the biggest problem on the earth. I mean, it was unreal how great it was. And I didn't think I would be able to talk to someone on Amazon. Yeah. I just assumed because they're so big, it's the opposite.
I remember we bought a blower, like a Husqvarna or something blower for like grass and grass and things like that. And so it's a little gas powered thing, and we got it, and it just didn't work. It was something wrong with it. We'd had it for about a month, and we called, and lady gets right back to us. She goes, we'll send you out another one. I said, well, how do I send this back? She goes, don't, just keep it. And it was $200. It was a $200 thing.
Yes.
She goes, we don't want you to. It's got gas in it. It's flammable. Even if you pour it out, we would just prefer to take care of you. We're just going to send you another, and you can do whatever. You can sell it on eBay or whatever.
Right.
So that's Amazon.
That's it. This thing I brought. I mean, you could have scammed them all day. Yeah, I could have said I never got this thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it was expensive. It was about $400. And she goes, I'll send you a new one out right now. It'll be there Friday morning. I'm like, I need it Thursday night. She's like, well, let me figure it out. She found it. I mean, man, but talk about experience. Phenomenal. So
if you're in a company that, let's just say that you go to this person who's in your company, who's in charge of onboarding, and they don't have a documentation, and you are suspicious that not sure onboarding is really our strong point, set up a meeting, talk to your VP or talk to the CEO and say, look, we got to get this right, because other people are getting it right, because it really doesn't cost that much to get it right.
Does not.
We're not talking about sending out, masses of quantity of goodies.
No.
We're talking about get the philosophy right, get the strategy and the tactics right, and it's cheap. It's cheap insurance that person is going to stay, especially if you're in a business where you want them to stay for a long period of time.
Yes.
First 30 days are really crucial. So assemble a meeting, get some ideas. Don't come to that meeting empty-handed. Come with, say, look, here's the way I think we should work it. We need to document it. Here's step one, and here's what we could send in between step one and step two. Or, again, I still get back to, I think if the CEO of your company is not a part of the sales process, I think you have him or her shoot a video. It could be just for that client if it's a good-sized client, or it could be a generic video that's hidden behind a firewall and say, here's our CEO welcoming you. If it's a big deal, I would say your CEO needs to cut a video just for that customer.
Yep.
But I know that's asking a little much. But
so true. It's the month of May here in Indianapolis. We know that means the Indianapolis 500, and the president of the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, Doug Bowles, does this. He makes 10 calls every Friday to season ticket holders. 3 of them never believe it's him and hang up on him. And all he does is say, I want to say thanks a lot. How's your experience last year? Gets their backstory. How many races you been to? I started going with my dad when I was like 9 in 1978. That's awesome. Anything we could do to make the experience better for you guys? Well, I just want to say thanks.
Yeah.
People love the tiny. You said it when you said it doesn't cost a lot. It's just the littlest things can help your experience so much, and then everyone brags on you. Yeah. They tell everybody the smallest little thing. You don't need some big gift. So
any final words of wisdom here on this topic of buyer experience?
I wrote down, you do need to, I'm just adding on to what Bill said, pick a date. If you don't have one, you need to just push for a date to have version 1.0 done by a time. Don't just start meeting and talking about it. Say, we're going to have version 1.0 done by June 28th.
Yep.
And you can drive it as a salesperson. It's a great thing for you to do. And here's what's great about it. People are like, well, it's not really a salesperson's job, whatever. Customer experience is your job. And if anybody wants to argue, like, we're really not really worried about customer experience, then they'll get eaten alive. So they can't argue with you.
Yeah, because you can even use the onboarding process and the sales process too, and say, look, as you get down near the end, you can say, here's typically what happens after, if we work together, here's what happens. And you can just lay out. You don't have to say, we send you a bunch of cookies, but you could say, look, step one is this. We introduce you to these people. There's a video from our owner. So use it as a part of the sales process too. It doesn't have to be a secret until they buy. Bring it out, truck it out there, because you're going to find that very few of your competitors do it right, and more will do it right in the coming years, because keeping customers is going to be, I think it's going to be a huge initiative for companies going forward, because retention is so important. And in the SaaS world and other worlds, retention is 2 or 3 years, and then they're gone, and it's just too expensive to get new clients. So as the cost of acquiring new clients goes up, the importance of retention goes up too.
So good. I think I'm going to start sending people a gently used gas-powered Husqvarna leaf blower.
Yeah, I got a couple.
Thanks for
I've got 5 of them. I keep getting
so
more.
Good. Hey, if you haven't joined already, advancedsellingpodcast.com/insider. Go be a part of that group. That meets the first Friday of every month. Fantastic program. Big bang for the buck in that one. Live coaching from Bill Caskey. And I recommend everybody take a look at that. And tell a friend about the Advanced Selling Podcast, would you?
Yeah.
Just forward it to a friend. What a great thing to do. Another little experience. Hey, here's a podcast I listen to. I've listened to for 17 years. You should check it out.
Still don't know what they're talking about, but
right.
I like them.
Okay.
All right. See you next time.
Bye.
Bye.